A life burdened by expectations is a heavy life. Its fruit is sorrow and disappointment. Douglas Adams. There are people who spend their entire lives carrying an invisible suitcase on their shoulders, filled with the expectations of parents, social standards, the gaze of others, and the fear of being judged. They walk through life not with the free rhythm of the soul, but with the weight of having to be good enough in everyone's eyes. And the bitter irony is that the harder they try to please the world, the further they drift from themselves. A life burdened by expectations is a heavy life. Its result is sorrow and disappointment. Because expectation is like an invisible thread at first, it is just a small pressure, but over time, it tightens around the human spirit until they forget what it feels like to live truly. When a person's happiness depends too much on external validation, they lose their inner center. They begin to measure their self-worth by grades, money, reputation, or applause. But those things are like seawater. The more you drink, the thirstier you get. Once one expectation is met, another appears. Life is then no longer a journey of experience, but an endless race against a feeling of inadequacy. People are tired, not just because of failure, but because they must constantly prove they are worthy of love. The saddest part is that many have never asked themselves what they truly want. They live like actors, memorizing a script written by someone else. They choose careers for recognition, love someone to please their family, and behave correctly to avoid judgment. The exterior may look perfect, but the interior is silently rotting away, like a house painted a brilliant gold, while the foundation is full of cracks. And then one day, they feel empty, even though everything seems fine. That is when the soul speaks up, realizing it has been neglected for too long. But life does not require humans to become machines that fulfill expectations. A tree does not need permission to bloom in its own season. A river does not feel guilty for flowing in its own direction. Humans are the same. True peace appears when we stop turning life into a stage for approval and begin living in harmony with our deepest nature. No one can please everyone, but a person who lives authentically will find the most precious thing, a sense of relief in the soul. And sometimes, happiness doesn't come from meeting every expectation, but from having the courage to lay them down. We live in a world where boredom is a hateful thing, and everyone often competes to see who is busier, as if their self-worth can be measured by how little time they have. William Stixrud. People are becoming busier, yet increasingly emptier. We live in an age where rest is often seen as laziness, while exhaustion is dressed in the glamour of success. Many no longer work just to live. They work to feel valuable. Thus, a schedule becomes a badge of honor, and constant bustle becomes a form of self-proof. When a person no longer knows who they are beyond what they produce, they begin to fear silence. For silence is dangerous to souls that have never truly faced themselves. A quiet room can make them hear the empty spaces within. They fill their lives with work, messages, social media, appointments, and endless noise, like someone constantly turning up loud music so they don't have to hear the sound of loneliness in their heart. Notably, society unconsciously rewards this exhaustion. People take pride in saying they only slept a few hours, are always breathlessly busy, or don't have a single day off. Phrases like, "I'm very busy," are sometimes no longer information, but a way to assert status. Busyness is used as evidence that a person is important. But if we look deeper, much of this busyness is actually an escape, escaping a sense of meaninglessness, escaping the fear of falling behind, escaping an emptiness they don't know how to name. Modern humans are like smartphones that are never turned off. Their screens are always glowing, always receiving notifications, always active until the battery is drained. But the most dangerous part is that many do not realize they are tired. They are so used to pressure that they consider stress to be a normal state, and then they lose the ability to enjoy simple things. Sitting still without feeling guilty, walking without checking a phone, or eating a meal without thinking of the next task. Boredom is not the enemy. Sometimes it is the doorway into the depths of the soul. It is in these undistracted moments that humans begin to hear their true inner voice. A forest does not grow in loud noise, and neither does the human soul. We need quiet moments to think, to feel, to remember that our value does not lie in the number of meetings, the number of emails, or the level of busyness. A human being does not become more worthy just because they are exhausted. Perhaps the greatest freedom in this era is the ability to live slowly without feeling ashamed, to dare to rest in a world addicted to movement, to understand that life is not a competition of who is more tired, but a journey to find life within oneself. And sometimes, an afternoon sitting still, watching the sunlight pass through the window, is more valuable than hundreds of hours of meaningless busyness. It is heartbreaking to have to deny your true self and live a lie just to please others. Ahern. There are people who spend their whole lives playing a role they themselves no longer recognize. They smile at the right time, nod in the right place, choose accepted things, then silently lock away their truest part as if it were something shameful. The greatest human tragedy is not being rejected by the world, but rejecting oneself, just to exchange it for a few looks of satisfaction from others. A soul forced to live against its nature is like a tree bent for many years. Outwardly, it still stands, but inwardly, the grain of the wood has long since cracked. We fear being abandoned so much that we are willing to betray our own feelings. A child growing up in judgment will learn to wear a mask to survive. An adult who has been hurt will get used to hiding their true self to avoid more pain. Gradually, they no longer live. They only react to societal expectations. They become the safe, obedient, easy-to-love version, but every night they feel empty, as if living in a room without mirrors where they can no longer see who they are. The most painful thing is that prolonged falsehood does not create peace. It creates inner fragmentation. The body always remembers what the heart has endured. A fake smile held too long turns into exhaustion. A life lived constantly pleasing others will leave the soul as parched as land never touched by rain. A person can deceive the world, but it is very hard to deceive the deepest part of themselves. That is why many have enough success, enough praise, enough recognition, yet still feel terribly lonely, because what they receive is not for their true self, but for the mask they have created. It is only when a person dares to live truthfully that they begin to feel free. Honesty may cost you a few relationships, but it returns your soul to you, and there is no feeling more relieving than existing without the need for constant acting. A bird is not born to learn how to love the cage. Neither is a human. We were not born to become a copy of someone else's expectations. We were born to live, to feel, to be different, and to carry our true face through life without shame. All criticism, judgment, diagnosis, and expressions of anger are tragic expressions of an unmet need. Marshall Rosenberg. Because behind harsh words, fits of rage, or severe judgment is often more than just simple malice. It is a disguised cry for help. Humans rarely get angry just because of what is happening before their eyes. They get angry because something inside has been starved for too long. The need to be loved, respected, heard, recognized, or to feel safe. A person who constantly criticizes others is sometimes one who has never felt their own value. They scrutinize the world the same way they were once scrutinized. A person who loses their temper easily may be carrying too much pressure with no way to release it. Like a cup already full of water, just one small drop is enough to make it overflow. What causes us pain is not always the current event, but old wounds being touched. Many intense reactions in life are actually emotional memories surfacing from the subconscious. A husband snaps at his wife after a stressful day at work. A mother reproaches her children because she feels helpless with her own life. A person who always likes to diagnose others as weak, failed, or useless may actually be trying to hide their fear that they aren't good enough either. Words sharp as knives often come from hearts filled with chaos. A peaceful person has no need to hurt others to feel stronger. The tragic thing is that most people are not taught how to understand their emotions. They learn to suppress, endure, or explode, but not how to listen to the deep needs beneath the anger. So, they go through life like thirsty people who smash every glass offered to them. They want to be loved, but push others away. They want to be understood, but speak in the language of attack. And so, relationships gradually become battlefields of unhealed wounds. By looking deeper into human behavior, they will begin to understand that behind anger is often pain, behind control is often fear, and behind judgment is often a soul lacking something essential. Empathy does not make us weak. It helps us see the true nature of people instead of just reacting to the surface. And sometimes, the most healing thing is not to argue to win, but to understand that many people hurt others only because they have never learned how to heal themselves. When we suffer, we go back to our childhood, because that is the phase where we first learned how to endure the experience of total loss. It is more than that. It is the phase where we had to endure more total losses than all those experienced in the rest of our lives put together. Every current pain often wakes up an old child sleeping within us. Adults may look strong, rational, and in control of their emotions, but when true hurt occurs, being abandoned, betrayed, experiencing loss or loneliness, the soul often reacts not with its current age, but with emotional memories from the early years of life. Because childhood is not just where we learn to speak, walk, or love. It is also where we first learn what loss is. A child lives in a world of absolute dependency. To them, parents are not just relatives, but the entire universe. Each time they are neglected, scolded, emotionally rejected, or lack safety, the young mind feels as if the entire world is collapsing. Adults often think children forget quickly, but the body and the subconscious do not forget. A child who once cried in silence because they weren't heard may grow into an adult extremely sensitive to indifference. Someone who once lived with the feeling of abandonment may panic at the smallest distance in love. Reactions that seem excessive in the present are sometimes just echoes of very old pains. Suffering causes a person to return to their most primitive inner state. That is why a successful, rational adult can still feel breathlessly helpless over a single rejection. Current pain is like a hand touching an old, unhealed wound. And the heartbreaking truth is that childhood contains more total losses than we imagine. Loss of the sense of safety, loss of innocence, loss of absolute trust, loss of the feeling of being loved unconditionally. A child does not have the ability to understand that parents are also full of hurt and imperfection. They only know how to feel the lack with all their fragile heart. Grown humans often try to live as if the past has been left behind, but in reality, emotional memory does not disappear. It only changes shape. It lies in how we love, how we fear, how we react when forgotten, or how we seek validation. There are people who spend their whole lives trying to fill the void of a childhood hug they never had. There are those who always try to prove their value just because as a child they felt not enough. But the most beautiful thing is that humans are not condemned to live forever under the shadow of childhood. Understanding old traumas is not about sinking into pain, but about stopping the self-blame for one's reactions. When a person begins to look at their inner child with tenderness instead of shame, the true healing process begins, because sometimes what we need most is not to become stronger, but to finally allow the most wounded part of us to be loved the right way. The world is as incomprehensible as you think. Coherence comes mostly from the way your mind works. Daniel Kahneman. Humans do not see the world as it is, but through the structure of their own minds. We imagine we are observing reality objectively, but most of the time, we are merely interpreting it through memory, emotion, belief, and accumulated experiences from the past. Reality is like a chaotic ocean of sounds, images, events, and emotions. The mind is what silently organizes that chaos into a meaningful story, so we don't go mad before the infinity of life. The human brain hates chaos. It always tries to find patterns, causes, and logic, even where they don't exist. That's why humans see shapes in clouds, find omens in coincidences, or believe that everything happens for a reason. The mind is like a weaver, constantly knitting separate threads of data into a tapestry called reality. That tapestry is different for everyone. Two people can experience the same event, but bring back two completely different worlds. One person sees failure as a full stop. Another sees it as a beginning. One person sees loneliness as a punishment. Another sees it as space to understand themselves. An invisible lens decides how we understand life. Someone raised in love often sees the world as a trustworthy place. Someone raised amidst trauma tends to see everything with defensiveness and suspicion. Often, we suffer not because of reality, but because of the way the mind interprets that reality. Some live in abundance, but always feel lack, while others go through adversity, but maintain deep gratitude. In the same rain, one person sees a gloomy sky, another smells the fresh earth. The amazing thing is that the human mind has the ability to create both heaven and hell from the same world. A repetitive thought can turn a fear into truth. A painful memory can color the present gray. Like wearing dark glasses for too long, people sometimes forget that the problem is not entirely with the outside world, but with the glasses they are looking through. But that, in itself, also brings hope. If the coherence of life is largely created by the mind, then by changing our perspective, we also change our life experience. A peaceful mind will find meaning even in the most ordinary days. A chaotic mind can turn even stability into insecurity. Growing up is not just learning more about the world, but understanding the inner mechanisms silently creating your own world. Perhaps the most profound thing is not trying to control everything out there, but learning to observe your own mind with alertness, for the world is inherently much vaster, more complex, and more contradictory than a human can grasp. But amidst that chaos, the mind still tells us a story day and night to keep us living. And the quality of life sometimes depends on whether that story is being told by fear or by understanding. We often feel we lack something and seem to see that quality in others, then quickly attribute to them all of our own qualities, along with a kind of ideal contentment. And so, the happy mortal is the model of absolute perfection, something that we ourselves have created. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. We do not love others entirely for who they truly are, but often for the image our mind constructs of them. When an empty space exists within a lack of self-confidence, peace, or wholeness, humans tend to seek in others what they think they are missing. And then, instead of seeing the other as a normal human with contradictions and imperfections, they turn that person into a symbol of salvation for their hungry soul. By seeing just a few outstanding qualities: confidence, gentleness, success, freedom, or mystery, we unconsciously fill in the blanks with other perfect qualities the other person may never have possessed. Like seeing a mountain in the fog, the brain will imagine the rest of the landscape. And so, a normal human is gradually turned into a version nearly divine in our perception. What fascinates us is often not them, but the sense of perfection we create around them. That is why many relationships start with passion, but end in deep disappointment. Not because the other person changed too much, but because the initial layer of ideal light finally fades. We suffer when we discover the person we once saw as perfect also has selfishness, fear, weakness, and limits like anyone else. But in truth, it's not the person who collapsed. It's the dream our mind built around them. Carl Jung once said that people often project unacknowledged parts of themselves onto others. We are strongly drawn to those who carry what our soul lacks or longs to develop. One who lacks freedom will be fascinated by a rebel. One who is insecure will be drawn to someone who seems steady. One who hasn't learned to love themselves may see a gentle person as their only source of salvation. No one can complete the internal lack within us forever. A person can inspire, awaken, or reflect beautiful things in us, but they cannot live the inner part of ourselves we haven't faced. The most beautiful thing happens when a person begins to realize that the qualities they admire in others are often seeds existing within themselves as well. Others are often just mirrors reflecting our own forgotten potential. We admire peace because deep down we also long for peace. We are enamored by strength because there is still a part of us wanting to grow. What moves us most strongly usually doesn't come entirely from outside, but from the part of the soul being awakened. Wisdom in love and perception is not about stopping our admiration for people, but learning to see them as they are: beautiful, but imperfect; special, yet still very human. When we stop putting others on the pedestal of idealization, we also stop seeing ourselves as a deficiency needing to be cured. And at that point, love is no longer a desperate clinging to a perfect model, but a genuine encounter between two people who are both imperfect but alert enough to see each other with realistic and gentle eyes. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. James Clear. We often think fate is decided by grand moments, a resounding success, a heavy failure, or a life-changing decision. But in reality, a person is built primarily from small choices repeated in silence. No one becomes a certain kind of person overnight. Character is forged like water dripping on stone, so subtle it's almost unnoticeable until the entire shape of the soul has changed. Every action leaves a trace in the mind. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, you are casting a vote for the image of a trustworthy person. Each time you delay something important to chase immediate comfort, you are also silently voting, but for a weaker version of yourself. Life is like an election held every day within, where there is no audience, no applause, only tiny decisions that accumulate into destiny. Humans often underestimate the power of ordinary actions. We want to change quickly, largely, and spectacularly. But human psychology does not operate by sudden leaps. It operates by repetition. A person doesn't become confident just by wanting to be confident, but by hundreds of times daring to speak despite trembling. A person doesn't become healthy through one day of extreme exercise, but through small choices maintained long-term. Just as a forest doesn't grow after a single rain, the character does not form from a momentary flash of inspiration. The smallest things often reveal the true person the most. How you react when no one is watching, how you treat yourself when tired, how you speak to someone who cannot benefit you, all are silent votes for the person you are becoming. For ultimately, we are defined not just by what we believe, but by what we repeat often enough. When an action is repeated, the brain begins to see it as part of our identity. If you consistently act like a persistent person, you will eventually believe you are a persistent person. If you frequently give up, the mind will also build that image as your true self. Every choice does not just create an external result. It rewrites the internal story of who you are. No one is permanently stuck in their current version. You don't need to change your whole life in a single day. Just cast one small vote today for the person you want to become. One kind act. One time standing up after a failure. One moment of honesty with yourself. Those small things may seem meaningless, but over time, they accumulate into character, and character creates fate. Life is not changed by grand promises made in the height of emotion, but by ordinary actions repeated long enough to transform into a new person. Vulnerability is not about knowing victory or defeat, but understanding the necessity of both. It is engagement. It is showing up with your whole heart. Brene Brown. Most people think that strength is not falling, not feeling pain, and not letting anyone see the cracks within themselves. But in truth, the most mature strength lies not in avoiding hurt, but in daring to open up, despite knowing you might feel pain. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is the ability to step into life without wearing armor for the soul. Humans often try to protect themselves from failure, from rejection, from the feeling of loss. We build walls with coldness, control, or indifference, just to avoid being hurt. What protects us from pain also prevents us from touching life's deepest aspects. A closed heart might hurt less, but it also loves less, lives less, and feels less. Like a ship anchored forever in port, avoids the storms, but also never knows how vast the ocean is. Vulnerability is daring to participate in life with your whole self. It is daring to love without certainty of being loved back. Daring to start even if you might fail. Daring to speak your truth despite the risk of being misunderstood. It requires a very different kind of courage. not loud or ostentatious, but deep, quiet, and authentic. For only those strong enough dare to reveal their soft parts without feeling shame. The beauty is that both victory and defeat are necessary for the soul's growth. Victory gives us confidence, but defeat gives us depth. Success makes us feel capable, while hurt makes us compassionate. Someone who has never hurt often finds it hard to understand the pain of others. Just as the earth must crack to receive the rain, humans often go through many breakings to learn how to love more sincerely. Those who always try to appear perfect often live in fear of having their true self seen. They fear that if others see their insecurity, weakness, or failure, they will no longer be loved. But true connection between humans is created not by perfection, but by authenticity. We feel close to someone not because they have no wounds, but because they are real enough not to hide them completely. Life never promised that if we give it our whole heart, we will always win. Some loves still shatter, some efforts still fail. Some instances of opening up receive only silence. But what makes a life meaningful is not avoiding all pain, but having truly lived, truly loved, and truly engaged in the journey of being human. A flower does not refuse to bloom just because it knows it will fade. A human should not refuse to feel just because they fear hurt. And perhaps vulnerability is the most beautiful form of courage when a person still chooses to open their heart to life, knowing that anything genuine always comes with the possibility of loss. Those who enjoy bullying you are the ones most easily bullied themselves. Douglas Adams. Those who always try to make others feel small are usually not as strong as they appear. Aggression is often just a coat of paint over an interior full of complexes, insecurity, and fear. A person with true value doesn't need to lower others to feel higher. Only souls lacking light try to extinguish the light of others to see less of their own darkness. Bullying behavior often stems from hidden weakness. There are those who were once looked down upon, controlled, or raised in an environment devoid of love. So they learn to survive through power and oppression. They turn their pain into a weapon. Like a dog that has been beaten too much will eventually growl at anyone who approaches. Many bullies are actually reacting from wounds that were never healed. That does not justify their behavior, but it explains why cruelty often comes from the most unstable people. Those who like to control others are usually extremely fragile before judgment. They may speak loudly, threaten, or mock others, but just one rejection or one small instance of being ignored is enough to shake their ego violently, because deep down, they don't truly believe in their own value. A truly strong person is like a mountain, silent but steady. A bully is like an empty tin can. The more noise it makes, the emptier it is inside. Those who cause suffering to others are often fighting their own shadows. They pass the pain along like a fire being handed from one torch to another. But if you look deep enough, you'll realize that what they lack most isn't power, but peace. A happy person rarely has the need to hurt anyone. Only chaotic souls seek a sense of control by making others afraid. When facing bullying, the important thing is not to believe you are inferior, but to understand that such behavior often reflects their own internal struggle. This doesn't mean you must endure or remain silent, but don't let their toxicity define your worth. A diamond doesn't lose its value just because it is thrown into the mud. And sometimes, the greatest strength lies not in responding with cruelty, but in maintaining self-respect and clarity amidst people who are being driven by their own internal darkness.